Hey, welcome to your Taurus horoscopes for the week before Christmas. The last week before Christmas, I should say. The week of the 17th through the 23rd. We're kicking off Christmas Eve next week. So I'm assuming that this is a pretty busy week for most people. But we have a lot of stuff going on this week too. We're still full on in that Mercury retrograde at this particular point. It's solstice week, so we're ending Sagittarius season, moving into Capricorn season, which is kind of an adjustment, I have to say. Things are kind of sort of got a lot of energy behind them, and then they slow down into more of a focused position, which for Taurus is actually a really good thing, honestly. All of that mutable energy is just, it's too much for Taurus. Actually, I have the perfect example of that because my father was a Taurus, and his wife, he loved her so much, is a Sagittarius, and she has a tremendous amount of energy, and she would just be, running around the house cleaning like crazy. The house was never dirty, by the way, at least not by any standards other than hers. The house was never dirty, by the way, but she was constantly moving. This is just how she was, and his energy was way down here, and it did used to sometimes it'd be very annoying for him to be in that, just in the same room with that energy, which being on the same energy level that he is, I could completely and totally relate to that. Sometimes those types of energies around us are just a lot to take in. They're a lot to handle, especially when it goes so much faster than ours in many ways. We are ending the week with the moon in Taurus as well, which is has its good points, its bad points as usual. But let's take a look at a couple of other things that are taking place this week. And the first of those things is the end of the Jupiter retrograde. Finally, Jupiter and Uranus have been retrograde in Taurus for a while. Now, Uranus continues to be retrograde through the end of the year. But Jupiter's retrograde, it does look like it actually, you know what? I just lied to you because it does not end, actually. The little R was just hidden by another planet there. So looking at Jupiter's retrograde does end this year. So it's not ending exactly this week, but it will be ending here in the next couple of weeks. So that's really good. The Uranus retrograde, I think, continues on into January. So we'll have that. We'll see that retrograde through the 27th of January. We're almost there, but not quite. So let's take a look at this. Jupiter's continues to be on that grand sextile with Saturn and Mercury through most of the week. I do believe that Mercury does move out of, no, it doesn't. Let me see here. No, it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't. It continues to be in that grand sextile throughout the week, which is really good. It's nice to be able to use Mercury's retrograde to your advantage. And there is an element of that influence there. Jupiter is also moving into focus on self, while Mercury is really focused on long-term career goals. Saturn is still pointing towards your responsibility to deal with your own mess, your own trauma, your own all of that stuff that continues to hold you back in some way, shape, or form. And what's interesting about this, I think, for a lot of Tauruses especially, are those that have been working on this. It really does get to a point where it's like, God, I've done so much work on myself. You have no idea how many changes I've implemented into my life. How much more work do I have? It does feel like this is all you do, and no matter how hard you worked, no matter how much you've accomplished, there still seems to be so much more. And for a lot of people, that is true, honestly. I mean, it really depends on the amount of trauma you sustained in your lifetime. It really does depend on what the trauma is specifically. Having to deal with abusive situations and the aftermath of abusive situations, each one of them is different than the next, and they have so many layers to them to boot. I have been sustained abuse on every possible level that you can think of. The sexual abuse is the hardest one. Or I continue to this day to work on that one because there are so many layers to that one. That's not to say that somebody else who experienced the exact same thing as me is having a harder time with, say, emotional abuse or physical abuse. It just depends on the individual. And I feel like we put too much pressure on ourselves to just hurry up and get on with it, which is an old way of thinking in many ways. And I think that a lot of that pressure is what keeps us from continuing through that healing process, if that makes sense. We all hit plateaus. We all go through the process and then find ourselves really in a place that we just don't want to deal with, if that makes sense, and it takes us a while. There's no race. Nobody is making you get this done quickly. There's no deadlines. None of that is happening. All that is happening is you taking your journey, and that's it. We also have Uranus moving back into a grand sextile with Pluto and Neptune. That's been kind of an ongoing thing back and forth. It sort of moved out and then it moved back in. Neptune is also focused on that inner trauma, while Pluto is actually there to lend a helping hand in that. So, two things. First of all, it can be very difficult to do this journey on your own. Now, I did a lot of my own healing way before I realized that I could do that, or that I found somebody to help me work through that. It is definitely possible. But one of the things that I also learned in my ego state, which of course it was my ego that was driving that bus right there, it usually is, was that yes, while I had done a lot of that work, there was a lot of work that I didn't realize was work that needed to be done. So I still needed someone there to help out with that. Whether it is a friend or whether it is a professional, each one of those situations is different and needs a different level of help. And in all honesty, for me, the help arrived when I needed it the most. And if you put it out there, chances are that normally does. It really does happen, believe it or not. It's kind of like magic, but it really does happen. The moon, of course, comes in and amplifies all of this, including Uranus's continued square with Venus throughout this week. So that's going to continue on all week long. And we are dealing with really old situations, financial situations that, in all honesty, we should just be past, right? Well, if you learn the lesson, yes. If you're continuing to do the same thing that you've always done, then no, you're going to have the same problems. So I feel like this challenge really has more to do with your approach to your finances and less to do with how much money is coming in, if that makes sense. I've heard it said that when you start making more money and you just spend more money, that it doesn't solve your problem. And yet most of us human beings are running around going, if I just made more money, everything would be okay, myself included. The thing is that all of a sudden you start making more money, you still have the same problem. You have to adjust your spending, you have to adjust your budgeting, you have to adjust something in order to see the progress Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing and expecting different results. So outside of that, though, I mean, that's really the only challenge that we have going on right now. That's not necessarily a bad thing when you think about it. And the moon is just coming in and sort of amplifying those things, more good than bad. And I feel like her amplification of the grand sextiles is really going to be what helps you to see what needs to change in terms of the running of your finances so that you actually can see a difference, which is definitely helpful. We want to start off the new year with new ways of dealing with an old problem that we just want to eliminate. This is really the best way to do that. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do consider sending a tip or donation through my coffee link, which is in the description of this video. I would really appreciate that. Also, also in the description, I am currently running a 25% discount for an hour-long reading for anybody that wants to connect with their loved ones for the holidays. And that promotion is going to continue on through the end of the year. Click the link, check out the promo code that's in the description of the link. Click the link, goes right to my booking page. All you have to do is book the time, make sure you put the promo code in there, and boom, you got the 25% discount. Easy peasy peasy. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, you guys are just doing great, and you need to continue to just do great. You guys make it a great week, and I will see you next week.